I was supposed to please different perpetrators by divining their sexual perversities. He was honest enough to say that, to speak to me about why he killed, or why he thought he killed. I've accepted that it's my life, that's my lifelong process, and nothing wrong with that. I have like a core of self-esteem that is sort of my navigating compass.
In your book, you write about horrific things that have happened to you as well. I mean, you've had to endure torture that is just hard to fathom. But you seem to have come out as a very balanced and very positive person. What's your secret?
Well, frankly, firstly, I'll say that my particular mind control training to be a public figure helps a whole lot. That's just the truth.
And you've also had years and years of therapy and soul searching.
Well, that's the main reason, but it is also true that for other survivors, like if you've had discard programming or something, that other, experimented on and discard programming to kill yourself with drugs or in some other way, or suicide, then it is much harder to go public because you're not trained like me, because I was trained to be, seen and heard. And so there was something in me, it was like, well, where is it? Mm-hmm. So I have also, because I was rescued, and as you've read, I was given these life instructions. And because I followed those life instructions so carefully, I ended up in a situation where I didn't have to work. And I could focus on my healing. So I used that privilege to go to therapy every day, go to yoga every day, and really go deep. I do want to maybe talk about this for a bit, because I did spend about 10 years, I wasn't always super functional. Mm-hmm. And
what kind of therapies helped? And what do you know from other survivors? You help other survivors right now. Could you shine your light on what helps other people and yourself? What kind of therapies, what kind of techniques?
Good one. No techniques necessarily, only people who can hold it. Because
also the therapist, the listeners.
That's all you need. You need love. You need someone who is willing to be present with you in this. And it took me 10 years to find a therapist who could do that. Everybody has their techniques, doesn't matter. My therapist happened to be a Freudian therapist. Didn't matter. She was open. She was kind, empathic. And she had enough awareness of the human condition, I guess, that she could expect or accept that such darkness. She didn't know anything about SRA, but she was there, and she was there for me. And that's really all you need. And I have myself, I've worked in the prisons for 10 years and developed a modality for providers mostly in order to because there's so much, because when we talk about the elite and the power elite and the power abuse from the top, well, they try to perpetuate that everywhere. So when you become a therapist or anything, you're being invited by the external power paradigm to take your status and to look down on your clients and to cover your own trauma with your lift that you get from your clients who need you. Well, then you got to look at yourself. And so my modality is really to be able to be fully, maximally present with a person, and if you're getting triggered, to look at yourself so as not to make things worse.
Yoga helped you to stay in your body and to stay in the moment?
Yeah, so that's absolutely, when I discovered yoga, I'd already been in therapy for several years, and I'd always done lots of sports to make sure that I wouldn't become a cripple from the injuries that I suffered. So right away when I was 11, I did every sports that there was at school, just to make sure that I would not start limping like him, like Patrick Hamers, who rescued me. And then when I started doing yoga, I immediately felt that, that's what I always wanted to do, because the synchronization with the breath really did bring me back into my body. I didn't have any awareness of my body below the head, and so a lot of dissociation there. So yoga did bring me back into my body, that's true. And then on the meditation end of it, the connection with the stillness inside, and then, opening up into peace, inner peace, sometimes even growing into joy, like joy without a beginning, it seems like, just naturally emerging from within. That really has been the work, I'd say, the personal work, to get back to the experience I received in the near-death experience that I describe in the book, where I was this absolute blissful state where I actually found the love, the unconditional love that I'd been seeking. And of course, like most people who have near-death experiences describe, I felt that this was more real than anything else. So it was like, this is reality. Bliss, you are bliss. And you are light. And then I was given that experience to, I believe, for one reason, was to know to strive for that in my healing. So that is with everything, with the therapy, with the yoga, with the writing, everything. And then ultimately, of course, the meditation is to reach that state again.
And maybe your mind control training has helped in a way, because you were subjected to techniques like being in a deprivation tank to get you in an altered state of mind, to reach the subconscious and to use that to increase your psychic abilities, at first in service of your boss, yet it also helped you to survive.
Absolutely. Isn't that the best, when the mind control training that is all to serve the purposes of the Satanists, so that they can not only enrich themselves but increase their control? Because I was supposed to not only enrich him, but also he would have an advantage in his business or political dealings, right? So it's really banal, and that's why I think it's so hard to fathom. Ultimately, because the emotional infancy is really hard to fathom. But if everything that I've learned, and I can use it to say the truth, how great is that? Because that training, as I said, it was extremely effective and it unleashes, it's meant to unleash superpowers so that we can be super robots and slaves to them. So if we can use our superpowers to bring in the light, then yay.
And the mind control training wasn't 100% successful, in a sense that in order to deal with the pain, you were fractured. You described this in the book, which is also called dissociative personality, multiple personality, where you're not present in your body in order to cope with the situation of extreme trauma and pain. Yet you've been able to retrieve the memories later on.
Yes, I wasn't really trained, like I said earlier, so definitely separation and dissociation. But first, I don't like the labels so much because I was never diagnosed as that, but also everyone is dissociated. You know, everybody has things that they don't remember. Nobody has a perfect memory, and also nobody is always in the same state.
True.
People dissociate all the time, you know, and zone out. So, but the mind control training certainly induces trauma in order to create a blank slate. But again, I wasn't MK Ultra mind control trained, where different personalities are created that don't know each other in order to have different, please different perpetrators. I was supposed to please different perpetrators by divining their sexual perversities,
weaknesses,
and separately weaknesses, but their perversity. So their perversities were for the sex slave training, and their weaknesses was for the spy training. So their perversities was that I knew what they wanted. So no matter what they tell me, that I knew what they wanted, and I could just give them that, but not from a dissociated place, not from a, like say, a kitten training, or, you know, just to act like a little, you know, some weird thing that weird men love, you know, sexually. No, it was just to sense what they wanted essentially, and then come in and give them that, and also help them feel totally nurtured, because I see their weakness, and that open wound is something that you know, they can reveal to me, and I can come in and sort of put this soothing balm of my love over their, you know, deepest wounds. Yeah. But the dissociation, you know, I retrieved it. Yes, I had that privilege of being able to just heal for over a decade. But of course, it's been going on for over 3 decades now. And it continues. I continue to have memories also, and continue to grow. But it's I've accepted that it's my life. That's my lifelong process, and nothing wrong with that. I have like a core of self-esteem. That is sort of my navigating compass, no problem. But even so, that obviously we can keep healing.
I think it's good for other survivors to see that and to be encouraged that there is still hope. And as you said, hopefully more and more people will come forward. However, they are faced with ridicule, they're nullified, they're going to be labeled you know, crazy.
Threats.
Yes. So it requires quite a lot of courage to come forward. In fact, the Dutch LEBZ which is the Landelijke Eenheid Bijzondere Zedenzaken, which is the special division within the Dutch Police Department involved in investigating organized sexual and ritual abuse. They have stated that worldwide no evidence was ever found that proves satanic ritual abuse exists. What's your response to this bold statement?
Wow. Yeah, wow. That's pretty ballsy. Yeah, well, they can try. What can I say? They can try, they can keep trying. They're going to keep trying, and they have to, but I don't think it's going to work anymore.
It's almost like they're trying to manipulate the psychology and the belief system of the masses.
All the time. Yeah.
Knowing that there's going to be a group who will do their own research and know better than that.
Well, own research, I wouldn't say that, because who knows, right? Because if you go online, you can find anything, and then that depends on what you believe. But if someone speaks about what they've been through, if you've had a little bit of healing yourself, you can recognize truth. And there's survivors coming forward, you'll recognize truth. Most people recognize truth, and then other people who are not able to go within and to accept that because they can't look at themselves, they're going to reject it. So they're always speaking to the masses that don't know any better, supposedly, because they look down on the masses. And of course they're going to do what they do. Of course they're going to spread their message that this isn't real. And of course they're going to, do whatever they can to... but it's not standing anymore. It's not going to stand anymore. It's not, because personal testimony is valid. Whether you have forensic evidence or not, personal testimony is what it is. And there's a lot of survivors. At one point, I didn't believe there were any survivors. Do you know that? Because I was so isolated. Mm-hmm. I just didn't think that anyone else would have survived. But there's many of us, and yes, it does. But the thing is, we've been all through this, right? So, okay, so I would never want any survivor to feel that they should come forward, ever. Because that's not fair. It really shouldn't be up to us at all. We should be treated, we should be held up and treated like what we are, and treated with the care and respect and the love that we deserve. All of us. Like, that's really, but the truth is that we do have to we are doing the dirty work. That's to say, we do have to be the ones to do the dirty work. It's okay with me. I'm okay with it, but it shouldn't be. So, no, survivors don't need to come forward. But a lot of survivors that I speak with, they feel that as a calling. They like, I start to speak with someone and they say, I always knew that I was going to be writing a book. And me too. I knew that I was going to be writing a book forever. That that there's going to be a book. And I've always felt there's a role, I have a role. So it comes from within. And survivors who have that from within, they're survivors who are not meant to do that. There's certain survivors that would not be good for them to speak out. Because, if you're not ready, or if you're, no, it's not right for everybody. But for those whom it is meant to be, then yes, there are already many of us, and more each day.
And also, if you look at dossiers, there's a common pattern there, that they don't look at the evidence, that they took away the evidence. They did this in the True File, they did this in the Robert M. case, where this guy that abused toddlers and babies in a daycare center in Amsterdam. I mean, it's a pattern you see constantly. So if there is no forensic evidence, why are they so afraid to investigate it?
Right.
Yeah.
It just requires common sense. And again, it's always the eye of the beholder. Are you able to absorb this dark truth? And if you are able to, because I understand that people are resistant to it, because it often asks you to just, like, your whole worldview could be upset by this. Mm-hmm. And also, if you look at people at the top of the way that the power structure works is that we are brainwashed to believe to see those people that are presented to us, whom we don't know at all, but who are presented to us as parental figures, trusted parental figures.
Right.
And we get to see one face. And whether it's celebrities or politicians or billionaires, you know, and we're brainwashed to look down on people that are powerless, to not believe them, and to not, you know, why would you not believe someone who comes and talks about these things? We're actually also brainwashed to look down on victims who have nothing to lose. And who don't have that status, who don't have the platform. You know, my platform is all me. There's nobody works for me. I don't belong to any organization. So, you know, I'm one person. And that my platform is all my own. But if you have a whole team behind you, propping you up and making you look like, you know, and all the marketing and all the PR. I mean, that's how it all started, with PR.
What's in it for the masses to look at this very dark topic?
To be able to, you know, to have the courage, you know, you need to have the courage. If this is challenging to absorb, which it is, I understand, but you need to have the courage to allow it in, the possibility. If it threatens your worldview, it takes courage, and courage means that you're facing fear. Like if you go with fear, then you're going with the flow of the power structure. If you go with courage, you're going against it. You're going towards love. You're going towards truth. Courage means to face your fear, to feel the fear, and then do it anyway.
And what you gain is?
You gain yourself, your integrity, your truth.
Strength.
And a lot of strength.
But it's important for people to realize that if you are able to look at the very dark, something else opens up on the other side that brings in the light.
Yes, but materially you may lose out. Because, okay, just look at, for example, an incest family and a survivor who starts to speak out about the incest. Well, what do they lose? They could lose their whole family. They can lose their inheritance. That happens very often. But it's the same thing. If you're going to be faced with these things, allowing in these truths that are uncomfortable to most other people around you, what's going to happen? Yes, you may, you know, depending on the situation, your integrity can cost you materially, absolutely. And that happens a lot. And that's still common. So it's important, you know, you don't want to just jump into, you know, a trauma, but you weigh things. But when you let it in, then you have the choices to make. And then at least you have the choice. Then you're not blinded by, you know, the story, the narrative, the going narrative that is just, it is easy to accept it. And there's a lot of promises with that narrative that are all false also. So I think at this time, it's actually the time to go within and to be strong from within. And I think that the benefits of that can be really, really felt now. Are going to be really felt now.
Yeah,
I feel them.
Yes. Let's get back to that in a minute. I just want to address one more thing that we haven't really talked about, your relationship with Patrick Hamers. Patrick Hamers, which is the main character in your book. Who was 20, 21 at the time. You were 10, 11 when you described the story. It seemed like you had some sort of affection for him. Was that real, or was it more something, a survival mechanism, as in Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah, no, there was a real connection right from the start. There was a real, I would say, a connection, not an affection, but a connection, an automatic connection, really. And like, there was unspoken communication quite a lot, actually, and that was all very clear, and there was a kind of intelligence, I think, that was matching at the time. That that my intelligence had been seen and used in the mind control, so I had it, and he had it, at age 20, he still had a lot of connection to truth also. And then, of course, ended up, it was mostly that I felt that he really liked me. The connection was real, but I was surviving. And so he actually reflected some truths to me that were extremely helpful. Because of his intelligence, and he was also honest enough to say, "You're not a good slave," or he was honest enough to say that, to speak to me about why he killed, or why he thought he killed anyway.
But he also lied to you. I mean, he also made himself believe that you were an adult, even though you were only a 10 or 11-year-old child.
Absolutely. He was brought there by his father, and when you then find out, what their relationship was, it's like I do have affection for him even now. That I think, what choice did he have? Now, there was a choice. At some level, there's always a choice. But I do feel a lot of affinity for this boy that was abused by both parents separately, then so violently desecrated, and then also stabbed. And I feel that trauma of his father stabbing him in the back of the knee, which he did to me, I do feel that, and then of course he did everything to me, so I felt it. But that was the crucial trauma of his life. That was the father making him feel that he had betrayed their sexual relationship when he was my age, 12 years old, with the mother, rather than that the mother had betrayed him. So that perversion, I think he could never overcome that shame. And I do feel that everything he did, every time he killed a boy or a man, that he was killing himself as that boy that just could never get over that shame.
And it goes to show you how complex this relationship really was. And he did make a very profound choice in saving you.
Yes.
And sacrificing himself, because he offered himself to work as a minion for Paul van den Boeinand.
Exactly.
That
was like the one good deed of his life, I think. Yeah.
And what's interesting is that you also write about his role later on in life. He was associated with the Bende van Nijvel. The Bende van Nijvel, the Nivelle Gang, or the Brabant Killers, as they're also known, which was a terrorist organization who was notorious for cold-blooded shootings and responsible for 28 deaths and dozens of injured people. Did you have any repercussions coming forward with these names?
The book's just out. The book was just published a few months ago, and this is my first time in Belgium and Holland to do these interviews. So, until now, Belgium particularly has never been very interested in my story, But lately, there's a lot more people that seem to be interested, and I have a feeling that the interviews that we're doing and that were done in Belgium, that there's going to be, we'll see what happens next. Not so far so good, but it's all new.
It surprises me that Belgium has so little interest in you, because your story is so closely connected to the Marc Dutroux case, which almost ripped the country apart.
Yes, but that's what I mean. Then we're talking back about the network, right?
Right.
Why do the most journalists are not interested? Why? Because it gets you know that when you go online in Belgium, you can't find me. You can barely find me in a search.
That's interesting.
Right.
Well, I guess we have to make the distinction between the journalists who are directly or indirectly controlled, and the masses. Because I've read once that 80% of the Belgian people do not believe the official Dutroux story, that they know at some level that he did not operate on his own, that it was not a lone crazy guy, but that he was part of a bigger network.
Wow.
So we are moving into a new era where we're shifting into a new paradigm. Based on your information, because you talk to a lot of survivors, is there any truth in the existence of an alliance that is written about in the alternative media, an alliance of white hats, if you will, that is unraveling the satanic pedophile network, are clearing the dumps and arresting the high-profile pedophiles?
I have to tell you that a lot of those stories just don't ring true to me. A lot of those stories seem to give hope that other people are doing the dirty work for us, and that we can just sit back and watch it all happen without doing anything ourselves, without becoming empowered ourselves. And I'm finding also that a lot of that alternative media, that truth seems to be mixed with lies, where you then get another division between people who don't believe any of it and people who believe it all the way. And then you have the distraction once again, that we're not looking where we're supposed to be looking, to where the problem really lies.
So there was a bit of a blackout at a very crucial moment. I think you said something along the lines that we need to look within and not externally, outside of ourselves.
Yes, exactly. I feel that, we're dealing with people who are expert in mind control, who have been studying mind control for a really, really long time, all to cover their own insecurities and pain. But nevertheless, all their resources and all their money is used for these things. That's to say, to keep the lie alive, that they are who they present as, which is, the philanthropic billionaire, the well-meaning politicians, the easygoing celebrity, the charming, easygoing celebrities. I mean, it's all set up for us to look at those people that way, and to keep believing that, and to keep listening to the parents of the world stage, who are the self-appointed authority figures, who lay down the rules for us to follow, and who scare us with their manipulation tactics. I mean, it is all for... When people wake up to that, when people start to realize that they're being fooled by those at the top, those dark elites will be very quick to come in with new measures to fool the ones that are just about to realize what's going on. it's said that the greatest tool of the psychopath is division. And that's what you have to look at. Like, we're being invited all the time to judge other people, to mock other people. And you have to know that to judge and mock others is actually the tactic of the Satanists. That's what they do to people. They're the school bullies. So that it's important for us to look at ourselves and not become part of that, not to be part of this division. And the information that we get is very thwarted on every side, on all sides. But there's a few things that you can look at to check if, you know, you have your own receptivity to truth. And that has to do with what the work you've done on yourself, or who you are and what you can receive. And so you'll find different ways of finding the truth. But when you're going into, you know, these particular truths, what's really important is that you're not being invited to trust another authority figure, a new authority figure, and maybe a secret authority figure even, who is going to come and save everyone and who's going to save you, and all these things happening behind the scenes that the white hats are doing, but we can't really see it. Who knows? Mm-hmm. You don't know. I don't know. It's important that we focus on the top, and the pedophilia, and that we keep looking up, and that we distrust anyone who has a platform that's large enough
to know that they're part of it.
Yeah, you don't get a huge platform of power in this world. You know, people say, if I were rich, if I were a billionaire, I would eradicate hunger. Now, we know that any billionaire could eradicate hunger in one day if they wanted to. But there's a really good reason why they don't. Why is that not happening? Because they're part of the system, which means that there have to be people starving of hunger so that they can keep staying at the top. Because the other alternative is that we really are all equal. That's to say, not all equal and they're at the top, as the real dictators or the obvious dictators, but really that they are also human beings and we are also human beings, and we're all together and we're all equals as human beings. If that's the truth, then we all have to empower ourselves and we have to make the change. We have to know what we want, and we have to make if there are politicians, I don't know, but they have to do what we want them to do. And if we pay taxes, we have to make sure that they go to what we want to happen. We have to be empowered. That's it. And everything that tells you to sit down and sit back and relax and just stay behind your computer screen, it's manipulative. And it's, again, to make sure that you're not going to be empowered and you're not going to look closely. And also from that side, let's say that this new club, new boys club really, in the truth movement, they never speak about the pedophilia aspect. And I find that really interesting. Or they speak about pedophilia only on the other side. No. The political division, that's bogus. There is no political division. You know, there's a lot to talk about, and there can be a lot of truth that can be just as manipulated as the lies. Mm-hmm. You can use the truth and do anything you want with it. And that's what's happening. So we have to be mindful. Just check in, you know, and not be fooled by every time it says you don't have to do anything. We're doing it behind the scenes here. No, it doesn't matter. If they're doing it, that's great, but then let's see it. And if they're not doing it, then they're lying. But you don't know.
And regardless, if they're doing things behind the scenes, doesn't mean that we don't have to do any work.
We certainly do have to do our own work and become empowered from within ourselves.
Yeah. So what's in it for the near future? You feel that, I mean, you told me that you felt that there's a change that is going on.
Yeah.
How do you see the future? What's your hope for the future?
Well, I always looked at the power structure as this pyramid. At the top are the few that have the most power and the most control. And through privilege and money, of course, but also privileges, there's more and more and more. And at the bottom are the underprivileged and the underserved that suffer the most. And so the whole world is made to suffer the pain, unresolved trauma of those at the top. And I looked at this toxic power structure as this solid pyramid. And now I feel that the love that we are bringing in, that means understanding of that toxicity, but also it's not to, it's not this big battle, this war, where we're going to kill those people. Well, maybe, but I don't know. But, it's more about awareness and bringing in the love from underneath it, that it feels like has already crumbled and it's already kind of melted. And what we're witnessing are the last big, the fingers on the blackboard, we gotta get the power, and I don't see that succeeding. I see us making the changes from within the existing structure to create a new, not an alternative life, because we're all in it. We're all in the society, but from within, just doing things differently. It has a lot to do with just even simply motive. Mm-hmm. Just to go towards more honesty and equality, but with awareness that we are not a dumb mass to be exploited by the top.
Mm-hmm. And in order for justice, what kind of things need to happen to bring justice to the survivors?
Woo! Well, thank you for asking that question. I always felt that the country of Belgium owes me a great deal. The government, because they let their members abuse me and kill other children with impunity. So I do feel that that would be just. However, the current justice system is very indoctrinated by those very people who are part of the network. So it's not really geared towards justice for victims. But awareness will bring justice. That's what I feel. If enough people allow this truth in, justice will follow, whatever that means. That either that we get the respect we deserve for the hard journey that we've had, or that we are asked to help in other ways, so that children can heal, survivors can heal, or that even things can be interrupted. Yeah.
So awareness is really the most important thing.
Yes, I think so.
To evolve.
It's the beginning. Yeah. The solutions will emerge from the awareness. Once you have the awareness, as you change and transform, your new path will unfold itself. And I'm doing my part, right? And you're doing yours. And other people will find their path as they become more aware of this.
And then collectively we will create a new world.
Absolutely, on every level. The earth is strong enough to survive all of this. It's not going anywhere. There's no apocalypse. All we need is to go back to honoring the earth. It's the corporations led by the crazy people at the top that have done the most damage to the earth. So let's look there. I understand that we can all do our share, but not just us do our share and let them continue to do what they're doing. No, awareness, so that we can actually, treat the earth differently and treat other people differently from this new paradigm of sort of motherly nurturing rather than domination, aggressive domination. Yeah.
That's a beautiful way to end this interview. I think that's a nice message to mankind to do this work and to let in the light. I want to thank you so much for your openness and for sharing your inner pain, your story, your inspiration and your hope. Thank you so much for everything you do.
Thank you.